Hi, my name is Karen Holmes, and I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today, I'm going to talk about money and about the economy, and I'm wearing my yellow jacket, my yellow rain jacket. People have been saving for a rainy day, or maybe haven't been able to save for a rainy day because they never were able to get their feet underneath them for a rainy day. A lot of people don't have enough money in their savings account to make it through for a bad time. And so today I want to explain how to make it through this difficult time economically. The Biden administration has been talking about how good it is, how the jobs are coming back, and how things like that. But with inflation and with the economy the way it is, people are being squeezed. The squeezing action is not bad. It's how you respond to it that's important. And that can be bad if you choose to go down into the games. If you're having problems, and you don't have any food, going out and stealing it isn't the way to do it. But I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to share with you what the plan for the international government can do to help you. If Joe Biden is coming up with plans, economic plans, that are keeping the economy going, putting back jobs, it doesn't necessarily mean that the economy is booming for everyone. It can be that it's booming for, people going back to work by taking the mask mandate off or something like that. That doesn't mean that it's going to work. And the Republicans, I hate to say this, but by relying on Donald Trump to make America prosperous again, great definition of great is prosperous for Donald Trump. He didn't have economic stimulus plans that would help the average people. The backbone of any economy is small business. So, his policies were not based on small business principles. Okay, now, I'm speaking to you as a person who is, I'm in my storage unit. This is my storage unit. I'm speaking to you as someone who was a person who I was a dental hygienist, and I got squeezed out of my job. A family dispute put me, my daughter and I became homeless. So now I was speaking from personal experience. I was homeless, and I had credit card debt. I was $7,000, nearly $7,000 in debt as a homeless person. And I was able to, and with my daughter, I was able to pay off all my debt by getting jobs. And so the first thing I did was paid off all my debt. But I have an advantage over everyone because I'm a channel, and I channeled programs and books that allow everybody to get out of their crisis also. You don't have to have a job necessarily to do this. And I'm going to just share an idea from the past, because the past is our the principles. Okay, when Moses, I talked about the faith of the puree. Imagine that Moses, we're getting into the time period with Passover and the principles of Passover. Imagine the circumstances, the economic circumstances that they were in as slaves, because they had food and all they had to do, and they had everything they needed as long as they continued to build pyramids for the Pharaoh. They had jobs, but all they had was their food. They didn't make money. They didn't have, if they left one at a time, they still had to go across the desert. They had nowhere to go. they were trapped in this situation. When they finally broke free, when they were free and they crossed the Red Sea, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. And the only thing, this mass of people, let's say 5,000 people wandering in the wilderness with no structure. Okay, so if you take 5,000 refugees from Central America and they come across the border, there are 5,000 of them, and they have no food. How do they function? How did they function? They manifested what they needed. So manifestation, let's say in heaven, do you need money? So if we're creating heaven on earth, do you need money to do this? So I'm talking about the principles of, Moses taught the principles of productivity, bringing people together, and creating a sense of productivity. But orange is the color of Moses, of productivity, not yellow. The principles of economy and prosperity were taught by Gautama Buddha. I'm talking about the faith of the pure and going around. So let's say that if the only thing that you have is what you have here, then what you can do, how do you take what you have and then take it forward? Okay, so let's say that Trump cannot be relied on to create the economy, and he's, what he does is he's a businessman. That doesn't mean he's going to make you prosperous. So let's just kind of forget Trump for a while. If you're being squeezed, forget Trump. He's not going to, all you have to do is fight to get him back in office, and he's going to make you prosperous. That isn't going to happen. Okay, if you are relying on Joe Biden and Social Security may not last much longer, because if they're relying on things, basically what can you do to start to create a structure that is going to help you? Now, I'm an example of somebody who was $7,000 in debt from credit cards. I was homeless. I had no home. And when I walked into my storage unit, basically I had everything I needed here that I had collected. So this is an example of somebody, you can do the same thing too, because in the back of your mind, you might have been saving for a rainy day, your pennies, which isn't going to help you very long. Maybe your Social Security isn't going to help you very long. You can't thrive on Social Security. But what you can do is you can support the plan for the international government, because it's a global economy. We live in a global economy. So today I want to talk about some of our economic stimulus plans. And if you support that and you start to create your own life, instead of the idea, what we want to do is create a global renaissance, and from the dark ages to the global renaissance. So you're going to help me create a global renaissance, not just by supporting the plan for the international government, but that's the first thing. And then taking advantage of our programs, and that will allow you to start to come out of it just the way I have been coming out of it. Okay, I have my small business here. My books, I'm a channel. My books are channeled messages from God on how to overcome any crisis. You don't have to buy the books. You can just look at the catalog, because the catalog is a resource in itself. In fact, as I'm going through and writing the books, I'm writing descriptions that make it possible for people to kind of understand what the basic principles are in it. So even if the only people that I can sell my books to now are amateur quality books, so I can't sell you, because I can only sell them to independent members, and you're not independent members, so I can't sell them to you anyway. I'm not trying to sell you my books. You can read the catalog and you can figure out for yourself what you can do. But I'm talking to you as somebody who's already maybe one step ahead of you, because I've been working to create my basis, my foundation, my financial foundation. The Faith of the Pure Way is the first program that you look at when you are trying to rebuild your financial foundation. Now, I stood on the principles, and I was at a moment of choice, and I was pushed out of my family. I was squeezed out of my job. I was pushed out of my family, and I became homeless. So let's say I'm no different than any of those people coming from Central America. I've walked a long way to get here to the United States, and now it's time for me to start looking at things and building my financial foundation. People from those countries, basically, they're responsible for their own acts. So let's say their own lives. They know the economy isn't necessarily going to help them. They know they're responsible for their own lives. So now I want you to take responsibility for your own life instead of relying on Trump or Biden or anybody else. You're responsible for your own life, your own choices. So now that's the first step. If you want to dig yourself out, don't rely on Trump. Don't rely on Biden to help you. Don't rely on Social Security. Work your way off of it so you can start a small business, because small business is the backbone of any economy. All right. You don't have to get a job in a big corporation or what. Think about what you can do. Now, the idea of this is this. The global renaissance, everybody has to, I told you before that if it's coming from God, manifestation comes from God. You're manifesting something. And I've talked about the virus. Somebody out of fear created the virus, manifested the virus. Viruses are thought forms that are manifested into the physical. It's like a fear. The virus is like a fear that was manifested into the physical. We do that all the time. All of our fears create the problems in our bodies. So what we're doing right now is we're looking at this idea. Instead of manifesting out of fear, we're going to manifest out of a plan. We're going to come up with a plan and then manifest what we need out of that. Okay, I'm going to just kind of step back for a minute. When you stop and think of it, the earth is a closed ecosystem. The money is out there. Everything that we need is out there. We just don't see how we can get it. We don't see how we can bring it towards us. But when you're a homeless person and you start making win-win agreements with other people, that's the basis of the economy, the principles of cooperation of nature. And nature creates a sense of abundance out there. There's all the food. It's just that all of the power games, all the fears that are causing it are shifting, and the greed is shifting all the money to the wealthy people. And that's been happening forever. Okay, so now what we want to do is to start shifting it back so that everybody has a sense of prosperity. All right. When in like places like Mali, I use that because I think of the people in Mali as being and Darfur, places like that, where they're living in stick huts out there. One of the things is they still have a home living in the stick hut. But anybody can be part of the plan for the international government. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be part of this idea. You don't have to invest in bitcoins or whatever. Bitcoins, I keep wondering why people invest in that cryptocurrency. That's hey, shift the money my way, and then I'll make you rich. You have $5 million in bitcoins, in cryptocurrency, hey, it can be gone just like that. And in the foundation, the money from the past, the Great Depression, people had money, but they were borrowing money. And, okay, I know. So we're looking at the past, the present, and the future. Okay, so the future, The past is, we know about the Great Depression and how people were borrowing money to buy into the stock market, and then things kind of fell apart. So we know that people can get sold the Brooklyn Bridge. We know that people are conned out of money all the time. There was a man who put $30,000 into his bank account, and the Bank of America closed down, and he lost everything. So we want to build on a solid foundation, and the solid foundation is our talents and gifts, because that allows anybody to be able to create their life on a solid foundation. I'm going to use the United States. Our solid foundation, the one that made us prosperous as a nation, isn't our military, isn't our economy, because people do that all over the world. What made us America great is our Constitution. The reason it's being attacked now is because that is the basis for our prosperity. Our prosperity is based on, the Constitution brought immigrants here from all over the world, made us a melting pot of a nation. So on a national basis, our talents and gifts, what makes us unique is our Constitution. So that, if we protect that and we stand up and defend it, then our country can market that to other people. That's the creation of the international government. We're going to be marketing our Constitution to other countries, the people who want unalienable rights and the people who want their freedoms. Our Constitution basically is an application of universal law, just like religion is an application, a cultural application of universal law. Okay, so that is what makes us unique. We're looking at what makes us unique. It's not that we're going to build a YouTube channel and sell our things on YouTube, and an Amazon channel. We're not going to do that. We're not going to buy cotton swabs and sell them just on YouTube and undercut other people. We don't have to do that. What we have is our talents and gifts. And anybody on the planet, even the people in Mali, even the people coming up from Central America, even homeless people and people on Social Security and people on all levels who are being squeezed out of their jobs and becoming homeless because they can't afford the rent. Though everybody has talents and gifts. And so that is what the global renaissance, the first principle of the global renaissance is. Okay, and then if you are going to do that, you start to follow the Faith of the Pure Ray catalog, or the program, and you go around the planning circle. You apply this to create a niche, a niche that is going to help you. Okay, now my job, my first requirement, my first job that I'm supposed to do is to create on the international level, my organization has to help people figure out what their talents and gifts are. Their niche is for nations. The first niche is the first two to participate in the global renaissance. First two nations are the United States and England. England has just been left the Brexit, left the European Union, and now they're still part of the Commonwealth, like a big family of nations. How many? I think there are around 20 nations in the Commonwealth. Okay, but then the United States and England are the first two to come together to create a niche. One on the Constitution, we're going to start to create a win-win agreement with England, and we're going to enable that Oxford and Stonehenge to end disputes between nations like they did in the past. And then we're going to market by addressing the exit strategy for Iraq, then we start to build this first set of win-win agreements where disputes are settled in court rather than the battlefield, and the money wasted on war will go to the people. So if the national budget for the United States is for defense is, let's say, $700 billion. That's what it was a couple years ago. I don't know what it is now under Biden. That if it's about $700 billion, if you take $700 billion and you don't have to pay for the military, and you actually make the military work for you by contracting out these people who are good on infrastructure, they're trained already. The United States has trained these people to be really good people to build infrastructure and things like that, like the Army Corps of Engineers. Those guys, the National Guard and the military, we can actually contract them out and make money by helping other countries build big programs. So instead of waging war, we wage peace. And we settle disputes in court rather than the battlefield. So that's the first idea. If the economy is going down the tubes, if our national debt is $30 trillion, that's a lot of money if you divide that up between people. The way to do that is to, like what I did, I tried to figure out how to get money coming in. And so that's where it is. The first idea is, if you support the plan for the international government and you start to consider what it can do, the first step on the international level is Oxford and Stonehenge, and then the constitutional amendment. Now, I can't support, my organization is a 501c3. I started a business and a nonprofit organization. I have to bring in another group. It's a network of people working together. But each one has like their own project. And I cannot start a grassroots movement. My organization cannot lobby Congress, except a little bit, and Congress has to, we have to have a plan, and then we can go and we can talk about it and help the government. But we can't go to people. So I have to bring in somebody else to handle. I can do the Oxford and Stonehenge thing, and the next person to come in will do the constitutional amendment idea. But that person has to be working with me in a win-win agreement. So start thinking about win-win agreements. Start thinking about win-win agreements and how you can find people who have what you need and you have what they need, and you come together. So now I'm going to give you an example. When Obama got into office, he came in running. He came in running. He brought in the Board of Economic Supervisors. There was an economic crisis going on. He brought together the Board of Economic Supervisors, and they handled the crisis. But he went out looking for people to help him. He went out to businesses, he went out to business people, and he went out and he was talking to people all the time. So when he was talking to people, he was getting ideas. Okay? The first idea is the problem that he ran into is the people he was working with. Their perspective had kind of gotten narrowed, and they could only offer more of the same. They had solutions, but by working with corporations, he wasn't able to really, and local business leaders, he wasn't able to really think about it. But when the plan for the international government was leveraged around, I did an end run, then it was Ahmadinejad of Iran who contacted him and say, okay, so he supported Ahmadinejad, supported the plan for the international government because it allowed everybody to be equal. It allowed that rogue nation to be equal to all the other ones. So he opened it up for debate on the international level amongst the world leaders. And that's what we have right now is people like Putin and Xi Jinping from China. Actually, they're both that way, that's south. they're west that way. Okay. What they did was they don't like the plan because their agenda is that they are going to be, this is the century for Russia and China, for Asia to shine. We have outsourced, the United States has outsourced and downsized and sent all our companies over to India and China and those countries. Now they're taking our ideas and they're using them for them to shine. The only problem with it is in China and India is that they're not coming from their own niche. They don't know what their niche is. They don't understand because they're just taking our power games and they're taking them. If you don't want your jobs, well, we're going to take them and we're going to retro engineer your business ideas and things like that, undercut you. But at the same time, their own economies are in trouble because that's what happened with the trade war. It squeezed China because of this, and now there's the supply chain problem and there's all these problems. So the ripples of effects keep on going out. Okay, so from your perspective, if all you have to do is turn around and be responsible for your own financial support, and many people are, you're one step ahead of everybody, but it's a win-win agreement. The economic structure, I have a little bug here. The economic structure of it is based on win-win agreements. Win-win agreements. Nobody trusts anybody right now, but win-win agreements build trust and set the stage for future agreements. If the United States makes an agreement with Iraq and we say we're going to enable you to start to get out of your crisis that we put you into, then what happens and we're going to end the Iraq war, we block the drain on our economy, we close the drain on the economy to the Middle East, the wars, the wars that are going on. And this is one of the things that Biden has been trying to do to get out of the conflicts there. But without supporting the plan for the international government, without national support, if the Republicans are saying we want Trump in office and we're not going to do that, I would like you, if you are being squeezed, if you turned your life over to Trump, want you to reconsider the fact that you're responsible. Your financial support is based on your talents and gifts, not on Trump saying, I'm really rich. He's not going to teach you how to run a business because basically everything he's been doing has been failing. Okay, now that's the name of a book. So my judgment there, you might disagree with that, but he didn't make anybody rich. He kind of slammed the economy with his trade war. Maximum pressure is not a good, a solid business idea. It might be okay for him, and he made a lot of money on it, but he's lost a lot of money by taking his ideas onto the government level. It was a small step for him. It was a major leap for everybody else. Okay, so now your talents and gifts. Now coming back to me and my responsibility here, I'm the spiritual hierarchy asked me to create a new prayer circle. And that is to help people to start to create a network of people working together based on their talents and gifts, to help people understand what their talents and gifts are. My organization is working with England and the United States to figure out what our niche is. And that's what it is if you support the international government idea, our plan for the international government. There are other people who may have the same idea, but our plan is based on our programs. Nobody can take our programs. They might be able to take the idea for an international government based on the Constitution, but can they do our programs? No. Okay, so the application of it is what's important. So we are working to create a niche based on the Constitution, and we're marketing with all the other countries. We now have, by opening up for debate, we're marketing our niche with all the other people, but then we're going to start focusing on one at a time and with our government proposals. So I'd like you to be aware, keep an eye on this. Start to consider that everybody's in crisis and that these videos that I'm doing are just going to share with you how you can get over the squeezing action and go up. Okay? And I'm an example of that because I went to the thrift store and I bought all the things that I need at Goodwill for I bought that lamp and I got a 20% discount on it. I have my shipping table here was my woodworking table. I like to do woodworking. My shipping table used to be my woodworking table. I found a table where I can work, workbench. I paid $40 for a workbench. You don't need a lot of money. Go to the thrift store if you need something for your business, because people who don't need something take it there, and then you're supporting a nonprofit organization too. So you probably over the course of your lifetime have collected the things that you needed to do that subconsciously, and then you can now take what you've been doing and come up with an idea. So at our first prayer circle, Archangel Michael, where I was channeling for a big group of people, Archangel Michael came through and said this. He said, God offers you the 100% of the life that you've always wanted. How much of that 100% are you willing to accept? So now I'm going to tell you how to accept that 100% that God offered you. God gave you, the first thing that God gave you on your silver platter is your talents and gifts. If anything from God, you know it's from God if it stands on the principles of universal law. If it's equal, stands on the principles of equality, liberty, freedom, compassion, abundance, capacity, and tolerance. Okay, so now, if you have your niche, your business, and you go onto the internet and you can market it with anybody on the planet. Okay, that is pretty powerful idea, isn't it? My goodness, I have something that it's a perfect business when you can market it to everybody on the planet. That's one of the great things about the internet. But there's going to be a problem with the internet coming up, and we're working on that too. And that is how to make it possible for everybody to have access to it. And that's another project we have. So the first step is be responsible for your own talents and gifts. Now, I'm supposed to help England and the United States figure out what their niche is based on their past, present, and future. The past is the principles, the present is the PowerPoint, and the future is your plan. So now what we have is a structure that people can participate in the creation of the global renaissance. That's the first principle, but it's all based on everybody being able to participate in it, and that's one thing, equality. Everybody can participate in it. It doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost anything. You can manifest it. What we're doing then is looking at anything that is everybody can participate in. Okay? Equality. And it has to give everybody their rights and their freedom, and people have to be treated compassionately. It has to be based on their own capacity. You can't function outside of your capacity. That's what Trump got into trouble doing. He's functioning outside of his capacity and trying to fit everything to go along with what he's doing, and it doesn't work very well. That's why he failed, functioning outside of his capacity. So you have to figure out what your capacity is based on your talents and gifts. And then you've been already programmed to all your life to fulfill your purpose in life. And that is where you start to take it. Now, the next step is the faith of the puree, the planning process. If you know the root cause of a problem, with the planning process, you can find the solution. Okay, that's where we're coming from. So if you want to build a solid foundation, check out the faith of the puree, puree.org, and then look at those steps associated with that. If you are a Republican who supported Trump because you're a Republican and he's the nominee, and you're really let's say a Republican, a rhino, that's what it is, but that's kind of a twisted idea. A Republican in name only. What is the identity of Republican? See, that's another important thing. That's the third step, is Iraq, rebuilding Iraq is our third proposal. So if you are going like this, the United States had been doing regime change to gain control of natural resources, and then when targeting an innocent person, we went into the abyss, and then we had to build a new identity. The Republican Party is talking about building a new identity right now. They're in crisis. That's the first step. We're watching the Republican Party build a new identity. And that's what you are doing too if you've been squeezed. If you're in the abyss and you've been squeezed, then you have to turn around and come out by turning around. The squeezing action forces you to turn around, and now you're going to go build a new identity for yourself. Okay, so the government proposals help you to understand step by step how to get out of your crisis. If you go through the World Peace Marketing Strategy, it helps you build a solid foundation. Check on the website on the first page, oneworldgov.org. The track our progress and the World Peace Marketing Strategy help you to understand too what you can do applying the same information. I'm parallel to Iraq. I'm parallel to Saddam Hussein. So my job, basically, with the Faith of the Puree, he helped me channel a book called The Faith of the Puree. He explained what it was like to be squeezed, to be hanged, and by the oppressor. Okay, and then now what we're doing is we're starting to rebuild to get the economy back on track again. As it's collapsing, as the Titanic is sinking, we all have to get onto the lifeboats, and it has to be lifeboats, a way to survive that allows everybody to survive, allows everybody to get their life on a higher level. So I have 4 economic stimulus plans. I have to bring in other people, but the first one is that if you support this idea and you watch and you share with other people this idea about like, share, and subscribe, because this information is important, I ask that you like, share, and subscribe so that we can start sharing this information and helping other people get out of their crisis too. But then we have our next program is called the U.S. Survival Cards. And you can actually bring in other people, not just sharing them. People don't always follow up on when you recommend something. But if you demonstrate to other people that you are starting to come out of your crisis, then they will. It's like a grassroots movement for businesses. And this is what happened in the past with, let's say, the Jews that were in the pogroms and the gulags in Europe, and how people like the Vanderbilts and the Rothschilds built their foundation. Now I'm not going to use them specifically because it's not a good idea to just say one family, but this was how the prosperous families from the past built their financial foundation. Okay, so that's where we are now. We have that. We have the first one is the exit strategy for Iraq, making it possible to end the drain on the U.S. economy to the Middle East and the forever wars. No more forever wars. We don't need wars anymore. They're expensive. Why waste our money on building all these big military things when we can support the plan for world peace? Now we'll back Biden, or not Biden, but Xi Jinping and Putin into the corner, and because people in 87 countries like the plan for world peace. So we have to be working from our own capacity to leverage the governments into functioning from their capacity. All right. So I'm not asking you to contact your congressman or anything. I'm asking you to assume responsibility for your own financial foundation, just like I did. If you need money coming in, you might have to sell something or whatever, but go to Goodwill and buy some of the things that you need. You don't have to be absolutely fabulously wealthy and have the best of everything. Not right yet. You can go to Goodwill during this transition period, and then you can start to build your life after you create your own identity. Okay, so that's where we are. We are going to start thinking about prosperity the way Gautama Buddha did that. But right now we are dealing with the economy. You can do that with the World Peace Marketing Strategy. Check that out on the front page of my organization website, and the button is already down in the corner. You can go right to that. If you have the World Peace Marketing Strategy, you can start to transition through that on the mental level, at least. Figure out what your niche is. And I'm supposed to start a prayer circle that will help people figure that out on this level. But I need to have a couple of other channels who are willing to work with me before we can really take off again. And right now, the only way they would come in is if they were being squeezed, and I have to deal with the conflict. When you have an idea, you have to also deal with conflict, and you have to always stand on the principles of your plan. We'll talk about that in future videos. Okay, so that's where you start today. Start today. And like, share, and subscribe, because this information is important. If we're going to get the United States and the entire global economy back on track, you can start today on helping do that by you getting back on track. Okay? It's up to you to create your life. How much of the 100% are you willing to accept? It's based on walking the rainbow. My business is called On the Rainbow, and I'm a channel, and my books are channeled messages from God on how to overcome any crisis. So it helps you figure out how to accept the 100% that God has already created. So it is 6:15 in the morning, and it's still dark outside, and it's kind of like dark, and we haven't had any rain for a while in Oregon. It was 78 degrees yesterday in Brookings. So it's dark outside, it's dark all over. It's time for us to get ready for prosperity. And we're going to start to create. Our goal is a global renaissance that everybody participates in. Okay. In fact, I have a government proposal that that I gave to our congressman and our senator about bridging an exit strategy for Iraq to a global renaissance. I think that might have gotten his attention. Okay, so, all right, here we go. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for stopping by.